Good morning. How is Jacob and Ethan and Isabel and Hadley and Luke and Levi and Connor and Drake? I hope you and anybody else watching this, welcome. I'm so glad you joined me today for a Bible story about something amazing that Jesus did. First off, I want you to stop and think about something. Could you close your eyes really tight? Can you imagine what it'd be like to be blind? When you can't see, it's called blind. You couldn't see anything. You couldn't see your mom and dad, your grandma, your grandpa. You couldn't see flowers or the dog. You couldn't see the sunrise. It would just be black all the time, wouldn't it? Can you imagine? What are some of the things you would miss if you couldn't see? I would miss flowers and the faces of my family and the ocean. The ocean's so much fun to watch. It would be sad to be blind, wouldn't it? In our Bible story today, we're going to talk about a man who has been blind and couldn't see since he was born. And he was old like me, almost as old as me. He couldn't see anything. He'd never been able to see his mom and dad. He'd never been able to see his brothers and sisters. He'd never seen trees or animals. He'd never seen anything at all. And he would have to sit at the edge of the road every day and beg for money because he couldn't work. He'd be all blind and all of it would be dark and people would walk by and he'd ask for money. One day, Jesus came walking by and Jesus did the strangest thing. Do you know what Jesus did? Jesus bent down and he spit into the dirt. And then you know what he did with that dirt? And that spit, he made mud. He mixed it all up and he made mud. And do you know what he did with that mud? He took that mud, all that mud that he had, and he put it on that guy's eyes. He put it all in that guy's eyes. And then he told the guy, go wash in the pool of Siloam. So the guy hurried out to the pool of Siloam and he washed his face off and he washed all that mud off. And when he opened his eyes, he could see. He could see trees and flowers. He could see Jesus. He could see everything. He was so excited. He was praising God and praising Jesus for making him be able to see. He was so excited. And there were people who saw him and went, isn't that the guy that was blind? And some people were like, oh, yeah. And other people were like, nah, it just looks like him, right? Well, the religious leaders of that time, like the preachers that are at the church, they heard about that and they're like, how did this guy get his sight? It's the Sabbath. Nobody should be doing work on the Sabbath. And they were very angry about it. And they were asking the man how he got his sight. And he said, Jesus did it. He was so excited. And those people, do you know what? Even though they could see with their eyes, their hearts were blind. Their hearts were blind so that they couldn't see somebody who needed help, right? We don't want our hearts to be blind where we can't see somebody who needs help. We want to have our eyes open wide to see cool stuff, and we want our heart to be open to be able to see people who need help. If you look around, does your mom need help with something? Do your brothers or sisters need help with something? Maybe your neighbor, you could help your neighbor. Or just see a friend who just needs a smile, right? We want to have our hearts open so that we can see people who have a need. Just like Jesus saw that man. He needed to be able to see, right? And Jesus, what a miracle to make that guy, just with some mud on his eyes, be able to see. Isn't that so cool? Jesus is amazing, isn't he? I'm so glad you all joined me today. We need to sing our song, don't we? Oh no, I have a thing for you to do. I need you to grab a piece of paper or a paper plate, one of the two, doesn't matter which one. Yeah, whatever you have at your home, okay? And on one side of the paper or the paper plate, can you draw somebody who's blind? Here's our guy who's blind. He can't see at all. And I think he'd be kind of sad, don't you? And then you can give him hair. And on the other side, can you draw him after he met Jesus? Woo! His eyes are open wide and he can see so much stuff. He could see everything, couldn't he? And he was so happy. You make it like a poster. Here he is. He can't see. He's blind. And there he is. He can see. So if you want to make yourself a little that, or you can do it on a piece of paper, whichever you want to do. They can make a little puppet type thing. All right, guys? And shall we sing our Books of the Bible song? Are you ready? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Acts, Romans, and the Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrew, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 3 John, Jude, and Revelation. Good job, guys. I hope you all have a super week. Enjoy seeing so many awesome stuff that God has made. And remember, keep your heart open so you can see people who have needs too. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.